When the first signal arrived, no one on Earth understood what it meant. At first, people thought it was just another strange reading from deep space, maybe a burst from a star or a broken satellite sending random noise. Scientists at several observatories noticed it at the same time, but even they could not decide what they were looking at. The signal was too clean, too organized, and too deliberate. It repeated every 3 minutes, perfectly timed, without a single mistake. Within an hour, the message changed. This time, it was not just a pattern. It sounded like a voice cold, distant, and layered with tones no human throat could make. Every major communication system around the world suddenly received it. Radio stations, satellite feeds, digital billboards, even old emergency frequencies that had not been used in years. The message seemed to know exactly where to go. Attention! Inhabitants of Sol 3, you will prepare for absorption into the Galactic Empire. That single line froze the world. People everywhere stared at their screens, unsure if this was real or some kind of complicated prank. But the broadcast kept repeating, and each time the voice seemed even more confident, as if it expected humans to already know who was speaking. Governments reacted fast. Emergency meetings began within minutes. Space agencies were told to check the skies again. Military branches activated protocols that had never been used before. Leaders who disagreed on almost everything suddenly agreed on one thing. This was not a joke. Then the first images appeared. High above the planet, near the edge of Earth's orbit, several enormous shapes moved silently into view. They were too big to be satellites, too still to be natural objects, and too smooth to belong to any known spacecraft. They seemed to glide rather than fly, almost like dark islands drifting in the night sky. Every telescope on Earth pointed toward them. Cameras zoomed in. The objects grew clearer. They were ships. Alien ships. People watched in silence as news stations broadcast live images. Some ships were shaped like long silver towers, others like giant wings stretching wide. All of them carried strange lights that pulsed like breathing. Even without understanding their technology, anyone could tell that these ships were not made for peace. They looked strong, ancient, but powerful. The global reaction was mixed. Some people panicked. Some cried. Some prayed. Some refused to accept it. A few said it was amazing, a dream finally coming true. But most people felt only one thing: fear of the unknown. Inside the United Earth Defense Command, building a massive structure built long ago for emergencies, no one thought would happen. Officials rushed through halls, carrying tablets and reports. Every screen inside showed the same thing: the alien fleet, slowly but steadily positioning itself above the planet. A group of specialists gathered in a secure room. A communications expert played the alien message again, slowing it down, removing static, analyzing each layer. With every improvement in clarity, the message sounded even colder. You will surrender all resource rights. You will submit your planet for evaluation. Resistance is non-negotiable. A strategist leaned forward. This isn't a request. A scientist shook their head. It's an ultimatum. The room went silent. The strange part was that the aliens had not attacked. They had not fired anything or harmed anyone. They simply positioned themselves as if expecting Earth to obey automatically, as if the idea of resistance was something they had heard of but never personally seen. This attitude puzzled the specialists. Why were the aliens so certain? How did they know Earth existed? Why did they come now? And what did absorption truly mean? A linguist who had spent their whole life studying patterns of communication leaned closer to the screen. They noticed something odd in the alien message. It had a structure, almost like a pre-recorded notice, something they must have used many times before. It sounded rehearsed, routine, like the aliens had delivered this same message to many planets across the galaxy. Maybe they think every world is easy to control, the linguist whispered. Maybe they don't realize we are different. But there was no time to explore that idea. New reports arrived. Small alien probes had entered Earth's atmosphere. They were metallic spheres, quiet and smooth, and they drifted through the sky slowly, as if sampling the air and scanning everything around them. They didn't attack anything, but people were frightened just seeing them. Videos spread across the internet. A probe floating above a highway, another drifting near a school, another pausing above a city before flying away. It became clear that the alien fleet was examining Earth. The United Earth Defense Command sent unmanned drones to observe the probes from a safe distance. They discovered that the probes were covered in sensors that glowed faintly each time they scanned something. When one drone got too close, the probe simply moved away, not fast, not scared, just uninterested. Like a scientist brushing aside a fly. This behavior made one thing obvious. The Empire did not see humans as equals. In a nearby room. A high-ranking commander watched the footage. They think we're harmless, the commander muttered. They think they can push us around. That could be their mistake. Earth's leaders tried sending a message back, hoping to open negotiations, but the alien fleet did not respond. When a second message was sent, the aliens responded only with the same original line, almost like an automated system. To the inhabitants of Sol 3, your compliance is expected. Expected, one translator repeated under their breath. Not discussed, expected. Humanity realized something. The aliens had studied Earth from far away, but their information was old. They did not understand current Earth technology, or how fast humans had advanced. They didn't know Earth had united defense forces, global communication networks, and advanced research stations. They didn't know humans had developed new weapons non-lethal, but powerful and technologies that worked far faster than anything humans had a century earlier, while specialists studied the probes. Scientists found something surprising. The alien machinery was advanced, but not as advanced as expected. It seemed old, not broken, but aged, like it came from a civilization that had once been incredibly powerful, but had not changed much recently. Maybe they stopped improving, a scientist said softly. Or maybe they think no one else could ever catch up. That idea gave the humans a spark of hope. Still, the situation was dangerous. The alien fleet was huge. Even if their technology was older, it was foreign and powerful. No one wanted a fight. Humanity only wanted answers. A global council meeting was held by emergency link. Leaders from every continent appeared on screen, tired and tense. They discussed options for hours, while the alien ships continued to float above the planet, unmoving, watching. Finally, the council chose a path. A small human delegation would be sent to the aliens, under strict safety protocols, to attempt communication face to face. The team would include linguists, scientists, and strategists. They would not bring weapons. They would approach slowly and peacefully. The goal was simple: understand the Empire's intentions and persuade them to talk like civilized beings. A transport craft was prepared. The crew moved carefully, checking every system twice. People around the world watched as the craft lifted off the runway and began its slow journey toward the alien fleet. Every second felt heavy. As the craft approached the alien ships, one of the vessels suddenly shifted. Lights along its structure brightened. A glowing gateway opened, projecting a soft blue field. The humans realized the aliens were inviting them in. Inside the transport craft, no one spoke. Not out of fear, but because words suddenly felt too small. Humanity had dreamed of meeting other civilizations for centuries. But no one imagined the first meeting would start with a demand for surrender. As the craft entered the blue field, the crew saw a large chamber inside the alien ship, shining, metallic, and unfamiliar. Strange symbols glowed on the walls. The air inside shimmered like heat rising from a desert. The transport craft slowly landed. This moment would become one of the most important in the entire history of the human race. The first face-to-face meeting between Earth and the Galactic Empire was finally happening. But even then, the humans stepping out of the craft had no idea that their arrival inside the alien ship was only the beginning. The Empire believed they were meeting a weak species. They believed Earth would bow without resistance. They believed this encounter was just another routine step in their expansion, but they were wrong, because the humans who stepped forward were not scared villagers or helpless creatures. They were representatives of a united planet, thinkers and problem solvers, people who had survived everything from world wars to global disasters. Humanity was many things flawed, messy, emotional, but humans had something the Empire did not understand: the ability to adapt faster than anyone expected. The first human delegation stood at the edge of the glowing chamber, their eyes wide as they took in the sight before them. The interior of the alien ship was vast, far larger than anyone had imagined from the outside. Smooth metallic walls reflected a soft blue light that seemed to come from nowhere, and the floor pulsed faintly under their feet, almost as if the ship itself was alive. Strange symbols moved along the walls, changing patterns like flowing water. It was beautiful, but unfamiliar, and it made the humans feel small and fragile. From the far side of the chamber, a figure emerged. It was tall, taller than any human, with a sleek body covered in smooth material that seemed part armor, part skin. Its head tilted slightly, and it studied the humans with eyes that glowed faintly. When it spoke, the sound was like metal ringing softly, but the words were perfectly clear in human language. "You are the inhabitants of Sol 3, it said. "Your species has been recorded. You will comply with the Empire's directives. Resistance is illogical." The delegation paused, unsure how to respond. The words were formal, almost mechanical, but there was an edge to them, a certainty that did not waver. One of the human communicators stepped forward, speaking carefully. We wish to understand your directives. Why have you come to our planet? What is the purpose of this absorption you mentioned?" The alien remained still for a moment. Then it replied, in the same tone, "The Empire collects. Planets with potential for resources and population growth are absorbed into the collective. Sol 3 is suitable for integration. Compliance ensures survival. Resistance ensures removal." The delegation exchanged nervous glances. The words were chilling, but the humans knew better than to show fear. One of the scientists, a tall, thin person with sharp eyes, stepped forward. "Survival is important," they said. "But we are not a species that can be taken lightly. Our planet is not just a collection of resources. We are capable of cooperation, innovation, and defense. Perhaps you underestimate us." The alien paused. It tilted its head slightly, as if considering the words. "Underestimation is irrelevant. Analysis of your species indicates compliance is optimal. Probability of resistance is low. We will wait for your decision." The delegation felt the weight of the words. The alien was confident, almost arrogant, but it had made one mistake. They assumed that humans were predictable. They assumed that humans would act according to statistics and logic alone. One of the strategists whispered to the communicator, "They don't know us at all. They think fear is enough." The communicator nodded subtly. "Then we need to show them something else. Not just that we are alive, but that we are capable of more than they expect." The discussion continued carefully. Humans had never been in a situation like this. Every word, every gesture mattered. They could not attack. They could not make threats. But they could make the alien understand that humans were not simple creatures to be commanded. The scientists quietly analyzed the ship. They noticed that the structure, while advanced, had patterns they could understand. Some energy flows were predictable. Some mechanisms repeated in a cycle. One of the humans realized something important. The ship's control systems were advanced, but not flawless. There was a pattern to the logic, something a patient mind could decipher. Meanwhile, back on Earth, people watched every feed, every transmission. News stations broadcast live images of the human delegation moving inside the alien ship. There was fear, yes, but also fascination. People commented on the courage of those who had gone forward. Children drew pictures of the glowing blue walls and the tall alien figure. The planet waited together, anxious and hopeful. Inside the ship, the humans continued speaking. They did not argue with the alien. They did not beg. They spoke of Earth's diversity, its ability to adapt, and the value of its people. They mentioned cooperation among nations, the way humans had solved challenges in the past, and the creative potential of their species. They spoke carefully, using words that were simple but carried meaning. The alien listened. It made small adjustments, shifting its stance, moving closer and then farther, as if testing the human's reactions. At one point, it sent a soft pulse through the floor, a kind of vibration, perhaps to measure responses. Humans kept their balance, remained calm, and continued speaking. Hours passed. Time felt different inside the alien ship. There were no clocks, no familiar markers. Only the interaction between humans and the alien remained. Finally, the alien spoke again. Your species is different than recorded. Analysis of responses indicates higher than expected adaptability. Probability of resistance greater than previously predicted. Your species is unpredictable. The communicator nodded carefully. Unpredictable can be a good thing. It means we are alive, creative, and capable of solutions you might not expect. We do not wish conflict. We seek understanding. The alien considered this. Then, surprisingly, it made a statement that no one had expected. Compliance is still recommended. Resistance is not preferred, but reconsideration may occur. The humans understood that this was the first crack in the alien's certainty. It was not surrendering. It was not afraid. But it had acknowledged that humans might be capable of something. Different something it had not calculated. The delegation returned to their transport craft. The ride back to Earth was quiet, filled with a mix of relief and tension. No one spoke much. Outside the windows, the alien ships remained in orbit, glowing and silent. But there was now a subtle change in the light. It was as if the ships themselves were aware of something new, a species that refused to be measured only by statistics. When the delegation landed, they were greeted by global leaders, scientists, and citizens who had been watching. People cheered, but the team did not celebrate. They understood that the encounter had only begun. The alien fleet still hovered, waiting, watching, expecting a decision that humans were not yet ready to make. Back in their analysis room, the humans began to plan. They reviewed every interaction, every pause, every shift in the alien's posture. Patterns emerged. Weaknesses were noted. Potential strategies were discussed. No one spoke of war, but everyone understood that survival required preparation. Humanity could not rely on fear or obedience alone. They would need intelligence, creativity, and unity. Meanwhile, the alien fleet continued its observation of Earth. But now, something had changed. The calculations that guided the Empire's actions had to be updated. Probability models were insufficient. The humans had proven that their species could not be fully predicted. Across the planet, people began to notice subtle effects of the alien presence. Air traffic adjusted automatically. Satellites shifted slightly to avoid detection. Scientists rushed to study alien probes that occasionally entered the atmosphere. Engineers designed new systems, inspired by the glimpses of alien technology. Humans everywhere were adapting, innovating, and preparing not out of panic, but out of understanding that the world had changed forever. Children asked questions their parents could not answer. Communities held discussions about the future. Artists painted visions of humanity meeting the stars. It became clear that, even without a single battle, the aliens had changed Earth. Humanity had united in a way never seen before, and for the first time, the entire planet shared a single purpose: to face the unknown together. In the quiet moments of night, when the sky was clear and the alien ships glowed above, people would look up and feel both fear and pride. Fear because the unknown was vast and powerful. Pride because humans had stepped forward, not as helpless creatures, but as thinkers, as communicators, as a species capable of surprising even the most confident observers in the galaxy. And deep inside the minds of the humans who had spoken with the alien, there was a growing certainty. They did not yet know how this encounter would end, but they knew one thing for certain: humanity would not bow without reason. Humanity would not be measured only by statistics, and humanity would never stop finding a way to survive. That night, as the alien ships drifted silently above the planet, Earth slept uneasily. But beneath the sleep, there was determination, a quiet fire that promised the world would meet the future, not with fear, but with strength, intelligence, and courage. The first meeting had ended, but the story was just beginning. Because for the first time, humanity had shown the galaxy that it was not predictable, and that unpredictability was the first step toward hope. After the first encounter with the alien fleet, the world seemed different. People went about their daily lives, but every glance at the sky reminded them that humanity was no longer alone. The massive ships hovered silently above the planet, their presence impossible to ignore. Even from space, the world could feel their gaze, as if the entire species was being watched and judged. Governments around the globe worked tirelessly behind closed doors. Emergency protocols were reviewed, scientific teams were expanded, and new communication networks were created to share information faster than ever before. There were debates and disagreements, but one truth became clear: Earth had to speak with one voice. No single nation could handle this alone. For the first time in history, humanity's survival depended on unity. A special council was formed, gathering the brightest minds, the most experienced strategists, and the wisest diplomats. They met continuously, analyzing every detail of the aliens' behavior. Every message, every probe, every movement was scrutinized. And slowly, a plan began to take shape. The aliens had assumed that humans would act according to probability. They believed that fear would guide decisions, and that the threat of overwhelming force would be enough to make Earth surrender. But humans were not predictable. Humans were creative, emotional, and determined. And now, humanity had a chance to prove that they were more than what the aliens expected. The first step was communication. A global broadcast was prepared. Every nation agreed to send a single, unified message to the alien fleet. This was not a plea. It was not a demand. It was a statement. Humanity had to show that it understood the danger, but that it also would not be intimidated. The message was simple, yet powerful. It acknowledged the presence of the alien fleet and the request for compliance, but it also declared that humanity would not surrender without discussion. It made clear that humans were capable of defense, and that attempts to coerce the planet would be met with resistance. As the message was transmitted, people around the world watched. Streets emptied as citizens gathered around screens, in homes, in public squares, even in schools. Children whispered to each other, imagining what might happen next. Scientists and engineers monitored every frequency, ensuring that the message reached the alien ships in full. And then, silence. For hours, there was no response. The fleet continued to hover, still, quiet, as if considering what had been said. Every moment felt heavy, the tension almost tangible. People waited, knowing that the aliens could react in many ways. Could they retreat? Could they attack? Or would they simply continue to observe, testing humanity's patience? Finally, the response came. A single broadcast, sent through every possible channel, reached Earth. The voice was the same cold, metallic tone as before. But this time, it carried a subtle change, a hint of surprise. Your species has spoken. Your species has demonstrated resistance. Compliance is still recommended. Resistance will increase risk of removal. Decision is expected within 72 standard hours. 72 hours. The ultimatum was clear. Humanity had 3 days to act or face consequences that no one fully understood. The news spread instantly, sparking fear, determination, and debate. Some people wanted to surrender immediately, believing that survival meant obedience. Others argued that surrender was not an option. Humans had fought for every inch of progress, and now they would not bow to beings they barely understood. In the midst of this, teams of scientists, engineers, and strategists worked around the clock. They studied every image, every probe, every fragment of alien technology. Even small details mattered. The glowing patterns on the ships, the timing of the probes, the way the voice messages were structured. Everything could be analyzed and used. One discovery gave hope. The alien ships, while enormous and advanced, followed predictable patterns in certain systems. Energy flows, communication pulses, and mechanical movements all repeated in ways that could be studied. They were not flawless. No machine was. Humans realized that patience and observation could turn the tide. At the same time, the world began to prepare, not with panic, but with purpose. Engineers designed defensive systems, researchers created simulations, and military forces coordinated strategies that no single country had ever attempted. The human response was unlike anything the aliens had likely seen before. It was organized, rapid, and intelligent. Across the planet, ordinary people also play a role. Communications specialists set up networks to track alien signals. Students and professors analyzed data. Communities practiced emergency procedures. Even children learned to watch the skies and understand that their world was now part of something larger. Humanity was coming together in a way that history had never witnessed. Meanwhile, the alien fleet continued its observation. The ships moved slowly, but they were not idle. Probes entered Earth's atmosphere, scanning cities, forests, and oceans. Each probe transmitted information back to the main fleet, building a vast understanding of human activity. But they were careful. No direct attacks occurred. The aliens had made one decision clear. They wanted compliance, not destruction. Humanity, however, was not idle. Analysis of the probes revealed patterns in the alien technology. Certain sensors were more sensitive. Certain energy flows were connected to power distribution, and some mechanisms could be influenced by electromagnetic signals. These discoveries did not mean an attack would happen. They meant understanding was possible. And understanding was powered out in the background. Diplomats worked tirelessly. They studied the alien language and symbols, trying to find subtle meanings, potential weaknesses, and ways to negotiate. They did not expect the aliens to be easily persuaded, but they knew that words could achieve what weapons could not. Communication was humanity's first line of defense. As the 72-hour deadline approached, the world held its breath. Every second was measured, every action deliberate. Humanity had made its position clear. Surrender was not acceptable, but neither was rash action. The alien fleet waited, perhaps calculating, perhaps observing, as humans prepared for whatever might come next. Then, on the final day before the deadline, a decision was made. A second, more detailed message was prepared. This message was not just words. It carried subtle proof of human capability, simulations, observations, and examples of ingenuity. The message explained that humanity could adapt, innovate, and respond in ways that the aliens had not predicted. The message concluded with a warning, carefully worded. Humanity seeks peace and understanding. We do not seek conflict, but we will not submit without reason. Any attempt to force compliance will be met with measured resistance in defense of our planet and our people. The transmission was sent, reaching the alien fleet in minutes. Across the world, people waited. They did not know what would happen, but they had made their choice. Humanity would not bow blindly. Humanity would not be underestimated. The alien response was delayed longer than before. When it came, it was different. The voice was no longer just cold and mechanical. There was hesitation, subtle but undeniable. Your species has demonstrated. Unexpected behavior. Analysis ongoing. Compliance is still recommended. Observation will continue. Decision deferred. Deferred. The word sent a wave of relief across Earth. It was not victory, but it was something almost as valuable: recognition. The aliens had acknowledged that humans were capable of actions beyond their predictions. Humans had bought time, space, and understanding. In the hours that followed, Earth prepared for the future. Scientists continued studying the alien technology. Strategists refined their plans, and ordinary people continued their daily lives with a new awareness. Humanity had faced its first ultimatum from the galaxy and had responded with intelligence, courage, and unity. The alien fleet remained in orbit, silent but watchful. Humanity knew that the challenge was far from over. But for the first time, it was clear that Earth was not simply a world to be conquered. Humans were a species that could adapt, think, and act in ways that even the most confident observers could not fully predict. And so, as the sun rose and set over cities, forests, and oceans, humans looked to the skies with a mixture of caution and determination. They had faced the galaxy and spoken with one voice. They had shown that fear would not control them, that intelligence and courage could shape the outcome, and that humanity's story was only beginning. The 72-hour ultimatum had passed. Humanity had survived, not through strength alone, but through understanding, unity, and the quiet power of being unpredictable. And in that unpredictability lay the first true hope that the planet could face whatever came next. For the first time, humans understood something fundamental. Survival was not just about avoiding danger. Survival was about knowing who you are, standing together, and proving to the universe that some things could not be measured or calculated. Humanity had done just that. And as the alien fleet continued to float silently above, the people of Earth began to prepare not for surrender, but for the next stage of a challenge that would test the best of what humans could become. After the 72-hour ultimatum ended, Earth breathed a cautious sigh of relief. The alien fleet remained above, still enormous, still glowing, but for the first time, their actions seemed measured rather than automatic. Humanity had survived the first challenge not through fear, but through intelligence, patience, and unity. Still, everyone understood that this was only the beginning. The aliens were not gone, and they had made it clear that resistance would carry consequences. Governments, scientists, and citizens alike knew that preparation was no longer optional. It was essential. In orbit, Earth's first line of defense had been quietly upgraded. Satellites were repositioned, early warning systems were strengthened, and unmanned drones were deployed to monitor the alien fleet. Engineers worked tirelessly, adapting Earth's own technology to study the alien ships. Every sensor, every camera, every signal was examined for patterns, weaknesses, or opportunities. The first signs of activity came unexpectedly. Small ships detached from the larger alien vessels and moved carefully toward Earth's orbit. They didn't attack immediately. They hovered, as if observing, testing humanity's response. This subtle move confirmed one important truth. The aliens were cautious. They were strong, but they were also aware that humans were not simple or predictable. Humanity's response was deliberate. Orbital drones approached the alien ships, scanning them for energy signatures, structural layouts, and communication patterns. Teams of scientists analyzed the data in real time, feeding information to military strategists, who began mapping potential points of vulnerability. Every discovery was small, but every small detail mattered. On the ground, ordinary people began noticing changes too. Airports adjusted flight paths to avoid orbital scans. Power grids were rerouted to protect critical systems. Engineers and technicians worked around the clock, designing tools and systems that could respond instantly to any alien activity. People everywhere felt a quiet determination. This was not just the work of soldiers or scientists. It was a global effort, a collective human response. Then, the first true test came. A wave of small alien ships moved closer to Earth's upper atmosphere, more numerous than before. They did not attack cities or military bases, but their presence was unmistakable. Each movement was deliberate, calculated, and precise. From space, they resembled a dark swarm moving with purpose. The decision was made to test humanity's own orbital defenses. Earth's teams activated automated railguns, satellite interceptors, and drone formations. The goal was simple. Observe how the aliens reacted to a show of human coordination and capability. The first encounter was tense. A small group of alien ships approached a relay station, and Earth's drones moved in synchronized patterns to track and surround them. The aliens adjusted their course, tested the drones with quick bursts of energy, and retreated slightly. Nothing destructive happened, but both sides were learning. Each action revealed information about the other. It became clear to human observers that the alien ships were not invincible. They were advanced, yes, but they could be outmaneuvered with careful planning and observation. The realization sparked hope across the planet. Humanity was capable of facing this threat, not by overpowering it outright, but by understanding it. While scientists and engineers analyzed patterns in the alien maneuvers, strategists began mapping out potential defense scenarios. Every orbital route, every energy signature, every signal delay was examined. They did not plan an attack. They planned responses intelligent, adaptable, and precise. At the same time, the alien fleet continued to test humanity, but subtly. Probes entered lower atmospheres, scanning oceans, cities, and deserts. Each probe seemed harmless, but humans quickly realized they were gathering information about Earth's infrastructure, communication systems, and human behavior. Observing, analyzing, learning. The aliens had underestimated one thing. Humans were also learning. Teams worked to replicate the alien scanning technology. They built simulations to predict probe movements, studied the energy pulses emitted by the ships, and even developed ways to disrupt or redirect them without causing harm. The effort was global, combining the expertise of nations, universities, and independent researchers. Humanity was proving that intelligence and cooperation could counter strength and size. As the first day of orbital engagement ended, humans realized another truth. This was no longer a test of weapons alone. It was a test of adaptability, communication, and decision-making. The aliens had power, but humans had creativity. They had ingenuity. They had the ability to act in ways that could surprise even the most confident observers in the galaxy. Night came, and people around the world looked up at the sky. The alien ships remained, glowing softly against the black expanse. Children whispered stories about the Great Watchers, while adults reflected on how much humanity had changed in just a few days. There was fear, yes, but also pride. Humanity had faced an unknown force and had responded not with panic, but with thought, courage, and unity. The next day brought a new challenge. Larger groups of alien ships moved in coordinated formations, testing Earth's defenses in more complex ways. Each movement was precise, and humans quickly realized that the aliens were attempting to map Earth's response patterns. Every reaction, every signal, every adjustment was observed. In response, humans adapted. Defense systems were reorganized. Drone formations shifted dynamically. Satellites adjusted positions in real time, creating a network of observation and response that the aliens had not anticipated. Humanity was no longer reacting blindly. It was anticipating, learning, and countering. For the first time, there was a moment of advantage. One of the orbital drones intercepted an alien probe and, instead of destroying it, released a controlled pulse that disrupted the probe's sensors briefly. The alien ship immediately adjusted, but the humans had learned something important. The ships could be influenced indirectly. Small, intelligent actions had the potential to change the course of larger forces. This realization sparked a surge of creativity across the human teams. Engineers devised ways to use existing satellites to send controlled signals, creating patterns that could confuse or delay the alien systems. Scientists developed algorithms that could anticipate ship movements and suggest optimal responses in seconds. Strategists began designing scenarios that relied on intelligence and adaptability rather than brute force. On the ground, people began to understand their role. Humanity was no longer passive. Every decision, every observation, every small action contributed to a larger effort. Children learned to watch for signals. Communities practiced emergency procedures, and even ordinary citizens contributed by reporting unusual phenomena or helping with data analysis. The planet had become a single organism, responding as one to the challenge above. The aliens, for their part, were beginning to notice the difference. Their analysis indicated that humans were unpredictable, quick to adapt, and capable of coordinated action across vast distances. The fleet remained powerful, but its confidence had been shaken. For the first time, the aliens were not entirely in control. As days passed, both sides continued to observe and learn. Humans refined their responses, improving the speed and accuracy of their defenses. The aliens tested, probed, and calculated, adjusting their tactics in response to human adaptation. Neither side acted recklessly. Both understood that any mistake could be costly. And yet, there was an unspoken understanding between the humans watching from Earth and those controlling the defenses in orbit. This was more than a test. It was the beginning of a relationship between a planet and a civilization that had assumed dominance too quickly. Humanity had shown that intelligence, cooperation, and courage could challenge size and power. By the end of the week, a pattern emerged. Alien ships continued to patrol, probes still scanned, but their movements were now cautious, measured, almost hesitant. Humans had proven that resistance did not mean destruction. Resistance could mean understanding, adaptability, and survival. On the final night of this first orbital engagement, people across the globe looked up at the sky with a mixture of awe and determination. The alien fleet remained, but humanity had changed. The world had learned that intelligence, unity, and creativity were as powerful as any weapon. And above all, humans had learned that their greatest strength was not physical. They could not match the aliens in size or technology, but in thinking, adapting, and refusing to be predictable. In the quiet moments. As satellites orbited and drones patrolled, humans reflected on what had been achieved. No one had fired a weapon, no cities had been destroyed, and no lives had been lost. Yet humanity had gained something far greater: knowledge, confidence, and the awareness that it could meet a seemingly unstoppable force and respond in ways that were uniquely human. The alien fleet remained above, a constant reminder of the challenge yet to come. But humanity was ready, not through fear, not through surrender, but through patience, intelligence, and unity. The first orbital engagement was over, and the message was clear. Humans were not weak. Humans were not predictable. And humans would never stop finding a way to survive. And as Earth slept that night, beneath the glow of alien ships, one thought was shared by every human watching the skies. The game had changed. Humanity had met the galaxy and proven to. The days following the first orbital engagement were intense. Humanity had survived, yes, but the alien fleet still hung above, enormous and unyielding. Its presence was a constant reminder that the challenge was far from over. Scientists, engineers, and strategists knew that the aliens were still testing Earth, still analyzing every move. Humanity needed more than defense now. It needed a way to assert itself, to make the aliens understand that Earth was not a planet to be taken lightly. In secret command centers, the world's best minds worked together. They studied alien signals, probe patterns, energy signatures, and communication codes. Every bit of data collected from the ships was analyzed and tested. For the first time, humanity had an opportunity. They could learn enough to not only defend, but to influence the alien fleet in ways the aliens had never imagined. The plan that emerged was daring. It was not a plan of violence. It was a plan of strategy, intelligence, and subtle control. Humanity would use its understanding of alien technology to send a signal directly to the Empire, demonstrating that humans were capable of more than they had calculated. It was a bold move, and it carried risks. If misinterpreted, it could provoke an attack. But leaders agreed. The potential benefit outweighed the risk. Humanity needed to show the galaxy that it would not be intimidated. Scientists developed a method to connect to the alien fleet's communication network using Earth's own satellites. It was delicate work, requiring precision and timing. Engineers designed algorithms to mimic the structure of the alien messages while embedding human reasoning within them. The goal was simple: communicate not just words, but capability, adaptability, and determination. Humanity would show that it was not just alive, but intelligent in ways the Empire could not fully predict. While this plan was being prepared, diplomats drafted a message. It was carefully crafted, balancing caution with confidence. It acknowledged the alien empire's power and reach, but it also made it clear that humanity would not surrender. The message explained that Earth was a planet with a species capable of rapid innovation, cooperation, and strategic thinking. It emphasized that humans valued life, understanding, and survival, and that any attempt to force submission would be met with measured, intelligent resistance. The final transmission included more than words. Using the data collected from the alien fleet, scientists embedded a subtle demonstration of human ingenuity. Patterns of energy were projected that could interact with alien systems, small simulations that hinted at the ability to influence their technology without causing destruction. It was a clear statement. Humans were not helpless. Humans could learn, adapt, and act. When the transmission was sent, the world waited. Every screen, every device, every communication channel broadcast the message simultaneously. People watched, knowing that this was a turning point. Humanity had moved from passive observation to active demonstration. The entire planet had come together, contributing knowledge, effort, and courage to a single purpose. For hours, there was silence. The alien fleet did not immediately respond. Ships remained in orbit, their lights glowing steadily, almost as if they were thinking. Analysts monitored every signal, every movement, every change in energy patterns. Then, the response came, not one message, but many, echoing across channels in ways that were new and unexpected. The voice of the Empire was cautious this time. The metallic tone remained, but it carried hesitation. Your species has demonstrated capability beyond recorded prediction. Probability of resistance is higher than anticipated. Analysis ongoing. Compliance still recommended. Observation continues. The words were different. For the first time, the aliens acknowledged that humanity was not fully understood. They had been confident in their calculations before, but now there was uncertainty. Humanity had shown that it could act in ways that could not be predicted by raw data alone. Leaders around the world studied the response carefully. It was not a victory, but it was a turning point. Humanity had not been forced into submission. Humanity had not been harmed. Instead, the planet had shown intelligence, creativity, and courage. The message was clear. Earth was alive, active, and capable of shaping its own future. In the days that followed, Earth's preparations continued, but with a new sense of confidence. The transmission had achieved more than expected. The alien fleet still monitored, still scanned, but it moved more cautiously, almost as if uncertain of the next move. Scientists noticed subtle changes in energy signatures and probe patterns, suggesting that the Empire was reassessing its understanding of humanity. People on the ground felt a shift as well. Communities worked together to support space monitoring. Scientists collaborated across continents, and engineers refined systems designed to respond to threats. The planet had become more united than ever before. The human response was no longer just defensive. It was active, intelligent, and adaptive. The alien fleet, however, remained a looming presence. Ships moved slowly in orbit, maintaining observation, while probes continued to scan. Humanity understood that the Empire would not simply leave. This was a civilization that had expanded across the stars, used to being a maid, used to planets surrendering without question. But now, Earth had changed the calculation. Humans were no longer predictable. Humans were no longer passive. The next step required both courage and precision. Strategists developed a coordinated plan that combined technology, communication, and observation. The goal was to create a system that could monitor alien activity, anticipate responses, and act in ways that could influence outcomes without direct confrontation. Humanity had learned that power did not always mean force. It could mean intelligence, adaptability, and timing. As part of this plan, humans began deploying new satellites equipped with sensors that could detect subtle fluctuations in alien energy systems. Drones moved in coordinated patterns, simulating responses that could be interpreted by the aliens in multiple ways. Scientists used simulations to test every possible reaction, creating a network of preparation that spanned the globe. The final stage was communication. Humanity crafted another message, this one more direct. It explained clearly that Earth would not submit to coercion, that humans valued life and innovation, and that the planet was capable of coordinated, intelligent defense if necessary. The message carried a subtle warning. Any attempt to force compliance would be met with measured but decisive action, demonstrating human adaptability and resourcefulness. When the transmission was sent, people around the world watched. Screens showed the glowing alien ships in orbit, the satellites and drones in formation, and the Earth beneath them, alive and active. Citizens held their breath, knowing that humanity had taken its first bold step in asserting its place in the galaxy. The Empire responded. For the first time, its messages carried hesitation and recognition. Your species exhibits high adaptability. Probability of resistance is greater than predicted. Compliance is still advised. Observation will continue. Decisions will be reassessed. The aliens had acknowledged something that no species had done before. Humans were not easily controlled, and Earth could not be measured by statistics alone. The transmission was not a surrender, it was a statement of intent. Humanity had made its position clear. Across the planet, people celebrated quietly. There were no fireworks, no parades, no grand gestures. The victory was subtle, intellectual, and collective. Humanity had survived the ultimatum, had demonstrated capability, and had gained recognition from a civilization that spanned the stars. And yet, everyone knew that the challenge was far from over. The alien fleet remained, observing and analyzing. Humanity had bought time, understanding, and recognition, but the future was still uncertain. Every human on the planet understood that survival required continued effort, intelligence, and unity, that the first bold communication had changed everything. Humans had shown that they could act together, adapt quickly, and respond intelligently to a power far greater than themselves. The Empire had been forced to reconsider its assumptions, and Earth had gained a new confidence in its ability to meet challenges. As night fell, people looked up at the sky and saw the alien ships glowing against the darkness. They were no longer objects of fear alone. They were reminders of what humanity had accomplished. The planet had taken its first steps in proving that it could survive, adapt, and thrive against overwhelming odds. Humanity had demonstrated something powerful. Strength was not only in weapons or size, but in intelligence, creativity, and unity. The Empire had learned that Earth was not a planet to be taken lightly. Humans had proven that even in the face of a civilization that seemed unstoppable, they could act decisively, think strategically, and refuse to be predicted or controlled. And as the stars shone above, humans knew one thing for certain. The challenge was far from over, but Earth had already made its mark. Humanity had shown the galaxy that it was not just alive, it was intelligent, adaptable, and ready to face whatever came next. After weeks of tense observation, the alien fleet began to shift its behavior. For the first time, humans noticed that the ships were no longer moving as aggressively, no longer probing as frequently, and no longer sending sharp commands. Instead, their movements were cautious, almost hesitant, as if the Empire itself was reconsidering the situation. Humanity watched closely. Satellites tracked every shift in formation. Drones recorded every probe that moved through the atmosphere. Scientists and strategists analyzed signals in real time, comparing the fleet's current activity to the behavior from the first days of the Ultimatum. Something had changed. The aliens were no longer confident of immediate compliance. Humanity had done what no other species had done before. It had forced the Empire to pause. Leaders around the world held emergency meetings. But this time, the tone was different. Instead of panic, there was cautious optimism. Humanity had survived, adapted, and demonstrated intelligence and unity that even the galaxy's most powerful civilization could not ignore. The first global broadcast of human ingenuity, combined with the careful observation and subtle demonstrations of adaptability, had shifted the balance. On the ground, people felt it too. Streets were filled with quiet celebration. Communities shared stories of the past weeks, of the small victories and clever solutions that had protected the planet without direct conflict. Children drew images of glowing ships, not as objects of fear, but as symbols of the unknown the humans had met with courage. People began to realize that humanity's strength had never been in size or weaponry alone. It had been in the mind, in unity, and in the ability to adapt to challenges that seemed impossible. The alien fleet remained in orbit, but its posture was no longer one of threat. Small ships returned to the larger vessels. Probes slowed, and for the first time, some ships hovered passively, scanning but not acting. Analysts on Earth suggested that the Empire was reassessing the risk of the planet. Humans had shown that they were not only capable of defense, but also of subtle strategic influence. The aliens were calculating, reconsidering, and perhaps even fearful of misjudging Earth. A global announcement was made. Leaders explained the situation to the world in clear, simple terms. Humanity had survived the alien ultimatum. Humanity had demonstrated intelligence, creativity, and courage. The alien fleet remained, but it had withdrawn its immediate threat. The planet had earned a a moment of recognition from a civilization that had assumed it could dominate without resistance. In the following days, humanity did not relax. Scientists continued to study alien technology. Engineers refined communication systems, satellites, and defense mechanisms. Strategists modeled every possible scenario for the future. Humanity had learned that survival was not a single event. It was a continuous effort of intelligence, observation, and preparation. Diplomats reached out through the subtle channels previously established, sending messages that were not confrontational, but that emphasized understanding and cooperation. These messages spoke of Earth's willingness to share knowledge, to communicate, and to learn from the galaxy, while also making it clear that humanity would not submit without reason. The tone was careful, balanced, and deliberate. Across the globe, ordinary people continued to participate in this collective effort. Data analysts, programmers, engineers, and even students contributed to simulations and monitoring. Communities shared information and supported the global response. Humanity had transformed from a collection of individual nations into a single, unified force, capable of facing challenges on a scale previously unimaginable. The alien fleet, for its part, began to change its formation. Ships moved farther from the planet, maintaining observation but reducing direct interference. Some ships emitted subtle signals that scientists interpreted as scanning for more than physical resources. They were studying human behavior, communication patterns, and intelligence. Humans realized that they had made the aliens cautious, respectful even. Earth had become a planet to observe carefully, not a world to dominate quickly. In time, a formal response came from the Empire. The voice, metallic and measured, carried a tone of acknowledgement rather than command. Your species has demonstrated unpredictability and strategic intelligence beyond initial estimates. Immediate compliance is not required. Observation continues. Assessment of the species' capabilities will inform future directives. The announcement sent waves across Earth. It was not a surrender from the Empire, it was a recognition. Humanity had earned time, space, and the beginning of respect. For the first time, the galaxy acknowledged that humans could not be calculated with simple statistics or assumptions. They were a species that adapted, cooperated, and acted with intelligence that demanded recognition. In the months that followed, Earth began to prepare not only for survival, but for opportunity. Scientists explored alien technology in safe ways, learning patterns of energy, communication, and propulsion. Engineers adapted what they could for human use. Strategists refined plans for diplomacy and defense. Humanity understood that the galaxy was vast and that the first encounter with the Empire was only the beginning of a larger story. Across the world, people reflected on what had happened. Ordinary citizens realized that their daily efforts studying, observing, communicating had contributed to the survival of the planet. Communities celebrated not with weapons or conquest, but with shared knowledge, unity, and a sense of achievement. Humanity had faced the unknown, and it had prevailed through intelligence, patience, and courage. Children, inspired by the events, began to dream differently. They imagined a future where humans were not only survivors, but explorers. They thought of new ways to travel, communicate, and interact with the galaxy. Humanity had proven that it could meet the unknown and act with skill, creativity, and foresight. The alien fleet eventually began to withdraw. Not entirely, but gradually, it moved farther from Earth's orbit, reducing scanning and interaction. It was a clear signal. The Empire respected the planet's capabilities and understood that direct coercion was no longer the preferred approach. Earth had survived not through weapons or fear, but through intelligence, strategy, and unity. As the ships disappeared from the immediate skies, humanity began to look outward with new confidence. Discussions began about establishing alliances, exploring neighboring systems, and preparing for future encounters with other civilizations. Humanity had become a recognized force in the galaxy, one that could not be dismissed. The planet had changed forever. The alien ultimatum had tested humanity's limits, but it had also revealed the species' greatest strength, its mind, its creativity, and its ability to act together. For the first time, the world understood that survival was not merely avoiding destruction. It was about learning, adapting, and proving value in ways that even the most powerful forces could not ignore. In the years that followed, humanity continued to grow stronger. Technologies developed to monitor and interact with space improved rapidly. Diplomatic channels were prepared for contact with other civilizations. Education and research flourished, inspired by the realization that the galaxy was vast and humans were no longer alone. The alien empire, meanwhile, continued to monitor from a distance. Their confidence in simple obedience had been shaken. They had learned that humans were unpredictable, intelligent, and capable of coordinated action on a planetary scale. Earth had earned its place as a species to respect, not a world to dominate. And as the sun rose and set over the planet, people everywhere understood the truth. Humanity had survived an encounter that could have destroyed it. But it had not only survived, it had learned, adapted, and emerged stronger. Humanity had become a new kind of power in the galaxy. Not through conquest, not through violence, but through intelligence, cooperation, and courage. The world had proven that even a small planet could make a difference in the vastness of space. And in that knowledge, people found hope. Hope that the future was theirs to shape, that the galaxy could be explored and understood, and that humanity's story was only beginning. The alien empire had withdrawn for now, but humanity had proven that it was ready, capable, and unstoppable in its own way. For the first time, humans looked at the stars and saw not fear, but possibility. They had faced a force that seemed overwhelming and had emerged not as victims, but as a rising power. Earth had shown the galaxy that intelligence, unity, and courage could overcome even the most daunting challenges. And that was a lesson no civilization could forget. Humanity had survived the ultimatum. Humanity had endured, adapted, and learned. And now, the galaxy would remember that Earth was not just a planet, but a species that refused to bow, a species that could change its own fate, and a species that was only beginning to reach for the stars.